Alright, so for the last few weeks, I've been lucky enough to take the 12 for a spin, which is an integrated steel sports watch from British brand Christopher Ward. And I think I want one, and in this video, we're going to talk about why maybe you might want one too. Alright, so let's get some specs out of the way. Here I have the 40mm version of this watch, and there is also a 36mm case size version of the 12. This is an automatic Swiss-made British designed watch featuring a Sellita SW200 movement, which provides us with a 36-hour power reserve and 100 meters water resistance. And that to me is the most important specs out of the way. I will leave the rest to other YouTubers that will do a much better job than me at covering those. I want to get straight into what it's like wearing the 12 and why I've fallen in love with it. I've really put the 12 through its paces over the last 6 weeks or so, and I am convinced that for the money, the 12 is one of the best options for a first luxury watch on the market right now. And if this isn't your first watch, no matter how extensive your collection, I think the 12 will fit right in and you will be glad to have it. So let's get right into it. And the biggest takeaway for me after the time I have spent with the 12 is that this is a seriously versatile watch. The 12 just seems to work in any situation. You can wear the 12 casually, dressed down, whether on a weekend getaway or traveling further afield. The 12 accompanied me recently throughout Italy, and the watch was more than robust enough for the rigors of traveling while still being an eye-catching piece. As I said, I loved wearing the 12 casually, dressed down, and the watch elevates a shorts and t-shirt outfit, and the dial and bracelet, which we'll dive deeper on later. Just the way that they catch the light makes this a watch that just pops, particularly under the summer sun. The 12 was generally just a treat to travel with, to be honest, and it was actually one of the first watches that I've received compliments at the airport with. It really does catch the eye, and somewhere like Milan, it was pretty nice to be wearing something different amongst a sea of Rolexes. But you can dress this watch up too. Personally, I think the 12 looks great in a shirt or a suit, for example. It really does punch above its weight class, in my opinion, in terms of wow factor. It really does look more expensive and luxury on the wrist than a lot of similar priced watches. And that's for a few reasons, but let's get started with this dial. So I love the dial on this watch. Beneath the sapphire crystal, we've got a textured dial, and it's a repeated Christopher Ward cross logo. And it is subtle, but it gives the dial a 3D look, and it has plenty of pop as well, as it catches the light in different ways depending on how you angle the watch. And this dial has dimension. I have the Glacier Blue dial here, and depending on the angle of light, it can look anything from bright blue to even almost like a white dial. Gazing into the dial of this watch under different lighting conditions really is a treat, because you get just a slightly different shade of this Glacier Blue dial color every time. To be honest with you, this dial color wasn't really on my radar at all before Christopher Ward sent me this particular model of the 12. I actually had a tab open on my phone for months and months now of the Nordic Blue version, which has been in my sights for a while. I've also been pretty interested in the Basalt Grey version, but honestly, the Glacier Blue has really grown on me. This particular lighter shade of blue really suits the general aesthetic of the watch, in my opinion, and the other polished elements on the dial. And you really are in for a treat wherever you look on this dial too. The finishing on the hands and the indices is just great, with a mix of brushed and polished elements. This dial really does glimmer and gives this watch just some extra flash over something like the Tissot PRX, that just is missing the kind of wow factor that you're gonna get from the 12. We also have an inconspicuous date window at 6 o'clock, which blends in nicely as the background color of that date window matches the dial. We've had a few iterations of the Christopher Ward logo throughout the years, and I'm glad that they seem to have settled on this minimalistic twin flag logo. This is a busy dial, to be honest, and I really like that this is an understated minimalist logo. The highlight of the 12 is without a doubt its bracelet. From an aesthetic point of view, it looks fantastic, but the finishing is also top notch. Christopher Ward really nailed this bracelet. The tasteful blend of brushed links with those polished chamfered edges on the links means light really dances off the bracelet and it just looks great. It's this kind of attention to detail that really makes the 12 stand out against the competition in this price range. I hate to harp on about the PRX, but you just don't get that kind of finishing on the bracelet that you are getting on the 12. But it's not just all style over substance either, because this bracelet is comfortable too. There's no sharp edges and it gets close, to be honest, in comfort levels to my Jubilee bracelet Datejust. Yeah, it doesn't quite make it there, but it'd be pretty unfair to expect it to, considering the huge price difference. And the watch feels extremely lightweight on the wrist, and the thin case also makes this a dream to wear as it slides under the cuff and is no way bulky. Yeah, in general, just a very comfortable watch to wear. I wore it on many a long day traveling, and if it wasn't for how incredible this watch looks, you probably wouldn't even tell it's there. And we have a practically invisible butterfly clasp with this Christopher Ward logo on the bracelet too. And yeah, in general, in terms of value, at just over £1,000 here in the UK, you get an awful lot of bang for your buck with the 12. The attention to detail and finishing on this watch is seriously impressive when you consider the price point. And a closer look at the bezel shows off that careful attention to detail with a tasteful mix of finishing techniques to give this bezel some dimension and some pop. And yeah, pick any part of the dial and put it under a macro lens and you won't be left disappointed. Whether it be the hands, the hour markers, that textured dial, or the twin flag logo. And this attention to detail doesn't stop there, because it extends to the movement too. The open case back provides a window to the decorated movement, which again looks great. This is the kind of watch where if you have one of those friends that isn't really into watches and you hand them the 12, well, they're not really gonna question what drew you to this watch or what is special about it, because it just speaks for itself, and it's actually one of those watches that might get them into watches too. But the 12 isn't perfect, and there are a few areas that I would have liked to seen some improvements in, and the main one is that I just couldn't really get the perfect fit with the 12, as there is no micro adjustment mechanism. And I do think that Christopher Ward did consider this by giving us these much smaller links the closer you get to the clasp. So you can kind of fine tune the fit by removing the different size links. But I couldn't get mine quite right. It was certainly good enough, but I would like to see in the future Christopher Ward to include some kind of micro adjustment mechanism on this clasp so we can get that sizing just right. Also, as a daily driver, which I think the 12 is a perfect one, that 38-hour power reserve is no issue. But if you do want to wear something else for the day, or maybe you put it down for the weekend, you're probably going to need to wind it and set the time the next time you pick it up. But to be honest, that's it in terms of negatives, and I really think that the 12 in general is really hard to beat as a first luxury watch. It's versatile, comfortable, attractive, yet reasonably priced in the world of Swiss watches, and you get a whole lot of watch for your money. And if you have other watches like me and you want a Gerald Genta inspired integrated bracelet steel sports watch in your rotation, then the 12 is seriously hard to beat. It's a step above the PRX in my opinion, and you're gonna have to spend considerably more to see it beaten. It's a go anywhere, do anything watch, and there's yet to be a scenario for me where the 12 has felt out of place on my wrist. And I want one because I have to give this one back to Christopher Ward, of course, but to be honest, after spending time with this Glacier Blue model, I'm even more confused about which dial option to go for. So if you own the 12, let me know, please help me out down in the comments. Which dial option did you go for? And in general, let me know your thoughts on the 12. How are you enjoying your time with the watch? But anyway, that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to see more, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one.